Ohio State looking for improvement this spring on defense. Jim Knowles today saying that it's last year, those last two games especially proved to him how much better in practice this defense needs to be than the offense. We're not seeing competitive stuff yet today. We were in the Woody today at 8:30 a.m. to watch the Tuesday's start of spring practice. I'm Nathan Baird. Stephen Means from cleveland.com. But Stephen, what did you see today that kind of gave you an indication of how that competition is starting and where this defense can improve?
Yeah, I think the first thing I saw was they do not have a lot of defensive football players. There's about 32 scholarship players. There's maybe 29 of them who are participating as guys are in and out. And so there are just a lot of reps to go around for guys. They didn't really the cornerbacks didn't do anything with the ball. It was all fundamental, turning and looking for the ball, getting your hands on the guy at the line of scrimmage and jamming him up. You saw the defensive line, Larry Johnson did his typical, I'm just going to rotate guys in and in. I didn't really see a set starting unit until we were doing the walkout. You try to sneak and see something, and you saw JT and Jack, and then Ty Hamilton, and then Talik Williams over Mike Hall as a starter in that situation. But I think seeing Mitchell Melton, who was supposed to be out for the spring, but he was doing individual stuff, that probably opens the door a little bit for some Jack stuff, because even Jim knows when we talked to him after practice, he was talking about how he was supposed to be a big part of that, the Jack situation, that before he got hurt, just because he popped off the film when you watched him doing a lot of that stuff. And then obviously moving around a little bit at safety, we talk about Sonny Styles has to play, Sonny Styles has to play, Sonny Styles have to play. Well, as of day one, he's not a starter. And things can change. There's 15 practices, and you have to get in the fall camp. But as of right now, Perry Eliano went veterans over the young guys with Lathan Ransom and Josh Proctor as the two starting high safeties, and then Cameron Martinez was the starting nickel safety in that situation. So he is going veteran right now. It'll be interesting to see how that continues to evolve as we get deeper into the spring and, of course, into the fall camp. And then without Tommy Eichenberg playing, it was Cody Simon and Still Chambers at linebacker with C.J. Hicks, who Jim Knowles mentioned might be a candidate for the Jack, which I think is a very interesting thing, that maybe that position doesn't have to come from the defensive end room, but then also Gabe Powers and Reed Carrick are two guys that he's hoping can make that jump. So that's a lot of names, but that's what it is. It's not a lot of people, but for a lot of these guys who maybe didn't get a lot of experience last year, they're getting a lot of reps in this year because there's just not a lot of guys who are going to be practicing in the spring.
Knowles also said, though, that there may not be much Jack going on at all this spring because Melton is the guy he really likes, and they've liked him there as the potential for a while. And the one guy who will not be in the mix at the Jack is Jack Sawyer.
Yeah, and it played out that way. We only saw 4 periods, but he was clearly just a defensive end. It was him and JT as the starters. He was only doing defensive end work. There were some drills where he was working behind JT while Mitchell Melton was the starting defensive end, but that was probably where, if you're going to have a Jack, JT's your best defensive end, and so you probably put Mitchell Melton on the field in those situations. But it echoed that sentiment of what we were wondering. We all kind of came in wondering, is Jack Sawyer still going to be a Jack, or are they just going to allow him to focus strictly on defensive end? And that's what I saw, and then that's what Jim Knowles kind of confirmed afterward.
Much more about this on Buckeye Talk, wherever you can find podcast and get our text, 614-350-3315. We were sending you what we saw in terms of alignments and personnel and everything as soon as we could today from Buckeye Talk.